To cut down your tree about 6 to 8 feet up in height, and you want to keep your tree if you... Time is running out for the Russian forces in Ukraine. The ground is thawing, which means the Russians have to stick to the road. Now imagine a road like this. You have to drive in a column. What's around the road? There's a bunch of trees here, and that gives Ukraine an opportunity to utilize trees to stop Russian columns, and I'll show you how. If you want to stop a military, the oldest trick in the book is to put stuff in front of them. Welcome to Counter Mobility 101. I was a former combat engineer in the 101st Airborne, and I remember looking into our training manuals, and there was something on there called the Abatis or the Abatis, wherever you're from, and it's a very simple, easy tactic to stop your opponents from moving towards you. The Abatis is essentially fallen trees or fallen materials on a roadway or anywhere that you can get your fallen trees or material, and then pretty much you put them in a reverse V, you interlock them, and if anybody tries to push them out of the way, they reverse V and interlock on themselves, and then that creates what's called a choke point or an ambush point, or even better, you get your opponent to get off of the roadway, stuck in the mud, maybe into a minefield, or you can ambush them there. Ukraine is in a very unique position right now. Russia did not read their history books because Russia is getting stuck in the mud. There are more and more videos coming out of literally perfectly fine Russian equipment that's just stuck in the mud. They couldn't get their vehicles out of the mud, and there are Ukrainian farmers and Ukrainian people literally dancing and spray painting Russian equipment. Imagine owning your own Russian tank because they got stuck in the mud. So, the Abatis. Anybody can do it. You can use demolitions if you have access to it. You can use a chainsaw. You can use an axe. You don't necessarily need to use fallen trees, but that is the preferred method. Again, this was done since the Roman times, but it was perfected in World War II. World War II was a very fast-paced moving war. Counter-mobility was used against the Allies and the Axis. They tried to move them where they needed to go, tried to get them into a minefield. They used reconnaissance and counter-mobilities. But again, counter-mobility is meant to disable and to stop your opponent. Ukraine is running out of supplies themselves. So using an Abatis is a very easy and cheap, affordable way to do that. So the way you do it is this. Essentially, you need to have a straight roadway, you need to have trees all around it, and that, of course, is all over Ukraine right now. And so, pretty much, you want to cut down your tree about 6 to 8 feet up in height, and you want to keep your tree, if you can, attached to the tree trunk. Because if it's attached to the tree trunk, then you create pretty much a pivot point, and it's very hard and difficult to cut down that tree. So again, you're thinking, well, can't they just go around the Abatis, or can't they just walk on top of it, or get your tank on top of it? I promise you this, it'll slow down your opponent. That is why NATO has a handbook on how to make an Abatis, because they are effective. And Russia knows. Imagine seeing a bunch of fallen trees in the roadway. You're like, oh, dang, they're here. It's also used in mental warfare. It's a very scary thing to see a bunch of fallen trees in front of you, and they are all intertwined because you know something's about to happen. So, again, counter-mobility is about to be a very big thing. Ukraine has a small window of opportunity where their ground still thawed out. They can really take advantage of this, considering Russia right now still does not have total control of Ukraine at the time of making this video. They don't have total air superiority. They are a very tank and artillery heavy military, and right now they are struggling with their logistical force. Imagine having a ton of Abatis all over the country. This is going to slow down the Russian military, and again, not only the Ukrainian professional military can do this, this also means civilians and farmers can do this. They can stop Russian tanks in their tracks, no pun intended. The Abatis is a very effective and cheap way to stop your opponent dead in their tracks.